Okay, hello and good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're all doing super well today. Thank you so much for coming to the training. If you're showing up right now, if you show up a few minutes late, that's okay. You can always go back and watch this. For those that don't for those that don't know me, my name is Jason J. Hamilton. I'm a chartered retirement planning counselor and the admin of this group. And every Sunday, we bring you trainings here so that you can improve your retirement knowledge and get yourself on a path to retire with confidence. So many folks out there are just trying to wing it and do it on their own. And I know for a fact there's a lot of things that you're missing and that you're skipping. So what my goal is to help you realize there may be some extra things you need to do and to put a plan in place to get those addressed. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about estate planning. So specifically about wills. Wills are only one part of estate planning, but what I've found is that most people I speak to that are over 60 years old do not have some sort of estate plan in place and even a basic will. If you are younger, having a will is even more important because you may have kids or other people that rely on you, and making sure that your assets and everything and all of your wishes goes the direction you want it to go are very, very important. So we're going to talk about this today. In many states, you can actually even get a free will, right? To start, I recommend you actually do get with an estate planning attorney and get a full estate plan in place. But getting at least a will in place is so important because it avoids a lot of headaches and potentially a lot of fighting and things like that if you have maybe multiple kids or you have somebody that you do not want to get any of your assets. So we're going to talk about that today. And discuss some of the advantages and disadvantages of having a will. So if you have any questions, as always, go ahead and leave a comment. Just put the comment in there. I'll keep an eye on them as we are doing our training, and I'll do my best to jump in and answer those. And then after, as usual, I'll stay on and answer any questions you have about this specific subject, or if you want to talk about estate planning in general, feel free to just leave a comment and ask your questions. So without further ado, let's get into today's training. Let me switch my screen here. Make sure that you can see me. Okay. So I hope you can see this all right. And just do a quick double check. Okay, if you can see, oopsies. If you can see my screen, then please, gotta love that. There we go. If you can see my screen, please type yes in the comments so that I know that you're seeing this okay and you're not just looking at me as I'm speaking. I like to have the slides here for you just because some folks, I know you can't always listen to this with all the sound on, but also reading while I'm speaking and teaching, I think that doubles the amount of information you can retain just because some people have different learning styles. So if someone could please give me a yes in the comments, I would appreciate that. Anybody who's watching right now, to let me know that you can hear me. So if you can't hear me as well, go ahead and put that in the comments and I'll keep an eye out for it as we're going along here. So today we're going to talk about some of the advantages and limitations of having a will and then the three different will types. You may not have known there's actually three different types. Most people don't talk about this. They just say get a will, but there's actually three different types and ways to approach it. And some do have their limitations. So we're going to talk about that today. So let's talk about first the importance of a will. So a properly drafted will can eliminate many of the problems that arise from dying intestate. So dying intestate means without a will. And this is such a common problem in California where I'm at. If you have this happen, in Orange County specifically, speaking to my estate planning lawyer friends, they say right now it's at least about 10 to 12 months of process for you to go through probate, okay? So a will's not going to eliminate all aspects of probate, especially in California, but it does help out, and it can help out quite a bit with the timing of things going through probate. So keep in mind, if you do have to go through probate, it could be 12 months, and during that time, your family will have to find ways to support things like the mortgage or whatever else may be. As we're going through the process, it's going to be very stressful, trying to decide where everything is going, dividing it up in certain ways. It can lead to a lot of family conflict. So for those of you that don't know sort of my backstory and why I do what I do, is because when my grandparents passed away, my family had definitely a certain amount of conflict with the assets that were left behind, the house and things like that, because there was not an official will in place There was actually a holographic will, so we're going to talk about that. But there wasn't official documentation in place. So as far as where the assets went, became quite a bit of, you could say, a little headbutting and challenges. So putting your wishes in writing before you pass, I truly believe, is one important way to show your family that you love them and care about them. Because if you don't put your wishes in writing and they have to decide, that can lead to a lot of conflict because some folks think they deserve more than others. So I say just put it in writing, so make sure your wishes are followed once you are, and once you pass on to the next place we may go. So a properly drafted will can eliminate many of the problems, like I said, that arise from dying intestate. But there are also benefits to you of having a will, so that's what we're going to be learning about today. So some of the benefits, let's talk about those real quick. Number one benefit is you get to select the executor as your personal representative to administer the estate. If you don't select somebody, the court will, and theoretically they're supposed to act in your best interest, but they're going to do the best they can, and that may not always align with what your wishes are when it comes to your asset disbursement and estate planning. It's going to allow you to transfer assets that don't transfer automatically by beneficiary designation or by law. So we'll talk about that a little bit, but things like retirement accounts, life insurance policies, those typically have a beneficiary on there, so don't have to worry about that. But you may have other items, maybe you have fancy cars or other jewelry or other valuables that aren't necessarily going to pass by designation or by law. So it's important to get those in there. And it's also going to allow you to designate guardians if you have children or other dependents and people that rely on you. So again, if you don't do this, then the courts are going to decide for you, and they're going to do what they think is in their what they think is in your best interest, but that may not always align with your goals or what your ideas are. So having a will is also going to allow you to transfer assets to a specific organization or charity. So if you're charitably inclined and you want a certain percentage of your estate to go to some sort of charitable organization, if you don't specifically allocate where you want that to go, again, that can open the conflict, and that means all your hard-earned and saved and invested assets could possibly go somewhere that you don't approve of. We don't want that. We want this to be something that you design and that everything goes where you want it to go. And if you're on the higher end, of wealth, then it's going to allow you to maximize the utilization of the marital deduction. So there's unlimited transfer, but then once you get to the second spouse passing away, right now it's about $11 million. So it's pretty high. But again, having something like this in place is going to make sure that you maximize that utilization of that deduction. And here's a really important one. Having a will is going to allow you to direct that certain people do not receive any inheritance. So this is also known as disinheritance. Maybe you have a child or grandchild that has, issues with potentially drug or alcohol addiction, or maybe they have a gambling addiction, and you don't want them to get your money because if they do, it's going to be wasted on things like that. Having it in writing so that doesn't happen is super important, and something that many folks overlook when it comes to their asset planning or their estate planning goals. It's also going to allow you to implement provisions to limit estate taxes. Again, for most people, it's not a big deal. But in California, for example, and there's other states that are like this, once you get above about $150,000 in assets, you are going to get into some big problems. California, the way the lawyers charge is based on percentage of gross estate, okay? So they don't have to charge that way, but in this state, they're allowed to, and other states are the same way. So what that means is they charge on a percentage of the total estate. So that includes your assets you may have saved and invested, your house, everything all added up. They charge on a percentage of that. So here's an example in California that I share with my local clients here, is that if you were to have a $600,000 house, right, and that's all your only asset, even if you owed $600,000 on the mortgage, or say $590,000 on the mortgage, you're still going to get charged based on the gross amount, which is the $600,000. So what that can mean in California for a $600,000 estate could easily be $30,000 to $40,000 in legal fees that you're going to have to pay if you let your assets go through probate. So here in California, you definitely need more than a will. You need to have your trust set up and everything like that. But you want to avoid probate as much as possible. And then also with probate, when you go through that, that's a public process. So all of your assets are going to be made known to the public. So the more we can keep out of probate, if not everything, the better. But one thing you want to think about is implementing provisions to limit estate taxes. Okay, and then you're also going to be able to designate certain funds to pay estate taxes if there are any owed. Again, most states you probably won't, but there are certain states with very low limits that have estate taxes that are separate from the federal estate tax. Okay, I do want to talk about some limitations of wills because they're not bulletproof in any sense of the word. What I want you to do today is take one step forward in protecting yourself, because I talk to so many people that just have not done this, and I just think it's so important and needs to be done. But there are limitations. So there is potential for the will to be contested, especially if you disinherit any potential beneficiaries. So, that could be a lot of legal fees that will come out of your state if other members of your family, for example, have to protect what your wishes were. So getting a complete estate plan in place is really important, but at least start with a will is what I say. And it is possible that the courts may invalidate certain sections of the will if the restrictions put too many constraints on the beneficiary. So, for example, if there's a restriction that requires a beneficiary to commit an illegal act to receive assets, the courts can definitely invalidate that. So you want to make sure that you don't do anything like that for people to receive assets from you. Really important. Requires a beneficiary to commit an illegal act to receive assets. Let's see. I'm getting a few things that say we can see and hear you, but can you guys see my screen? I don't know if you can actually. Shoot. Let me see if I can switch back to that. Let's try this. Let's try this. I don't know if you can see my actual screen. Okay, no screen. Can anybody see my screen now with me in the bottom corner there? Let's see. Well, today we may have to go without the screen. You gotta love this, but I'll post the slides for you to see later. Okay, I do apologize about that. Gotta love technology, man. Sometimes it just does not want to work with you, and it just is what it is, right? So bear with me here while I switch back. Okay, so assets that pass by contract or law will supersede what's in the will. So this is another limitation. So if you have retirement accounts, life insurance policies, if you try to put things in your will that are not aligned with your beneficiary designations on things like your 401k, your IRAs, things like that, that will actually supersede what's in the will. So you don't want to have things that are not matching there, okay? Just because you put it in the will doesn't mean it's going to supersede your beneficiary designation. It actually won't. So please don't do that. Not very important. And if your will is just poorly drafted or outdated, so if you try to put things in there that just non-existent property, so let's say you owned a rental property, for example, and then you sold that off, but it's still in your will, and maybe you have the assets, but now that asset base is somewhere else, that could give you some problems. Okay, that's considered a poorly drafted will. And same thing, if it's outdated and you have a deceased heir, so if you designated some property to go to a heir, but then they passed away before you did, well, again, that's outdated. So, generally checking up and updating your will every year or two, I think is a really good idea to make sure that is, done properly, right? It's just really, really important that that's done properly. And you don't want to just let these things go too long. At least every 5 years, that's important, okay? So don't let that get too far away. I'm going to try one more time to switch this screen here. Bear with me while I do this. And let's see if I can get this swapped around, because this is really important stuff here. Yeah, it just doesn't want to let me. I don't understand. Gotta love live, right? When you go live, it's a little bit on the dangerous side. Okay, I think we got it. I think we got it here. That's good. Okay, let me move myself down over this way. Okay, now... Man, this is just not fun today. I do apologize, guys. Yeah, it's not letting me show it. Oh, well. All right, well, I'll post the slides for you guys later. So let me go back to what I was doing here before. Okay. Next thing. Okay, there's 3 types of wills. 3 types of wills that you need to know about. The first one is statutory wills. So statutory wills are the most official. They're drafted by an attorney, and they generally must be witnessed and signed by the testator, which is you. Okay, you have to sign it and make sure that's drafted by an attorney. That's called a statutory will. Holographic wills are generally handwritten by the testator and must be signed and dated by the testator, but does not usually require a witness. So, again, if you wrote your will out by hand and you signed it and dated it, this will be valid in most states, but not all states. So you do want to double check that. But again, highly recommend just getting it done with an attorney and getting it done properly. But you can start by doing the handwritten version. And again, most states have free, templates. I know California does. A lot of states have them. So if you search "free will your state" on Google, I think something will come up, and you can at least get started there and get your thoughts all in one place. Then there's something called non-cupative wills. So these are an oral will, and the dying declarations are made before a sufficient number of witnesses. So this is like the classic, what you see in a movie, right? When someone's on their deathbed and they're passing away, and they make all their wishes known verbally. Generally, this is not valid in most states, and they only apply to personal property and not real property like your real estate and things like that. And the dollar amounts transferred by this method may be limited. So this is not the way that you want to make sure your estate plan is done. Definitely not a good way to go about it. But in states where this is allowed, the witnesses must generally submit an affidavit declaring the testator's final wishes. So again, if this is all you got, okay, but this is not the ideal way to go about it. I prefer that you actually get these things written out, get them in black and white, get them signed, dated in ink, so that your wishes are honored and everything is done in the most legal way possible. But just in wrapping up here, I want to remind you that estate planning is only one aspect of proper retirement planning and protecting your assets. It is an important aspect, but it is not the only thing you need to think about. And if you would like to discuss your retirement plan with someone who does not sell products, make commissions off recommendation, and is legally required to put your interests first, then here's what I have for you, okay? I would love for you guys to come visit me and have a chat with me. I'm going to drop the link down below, but you can go to kisplanning.com/apply, and that's where you can schedule an appointment with me. I have very limited appointments this week, the next week, and the week after, because I'm very busy right now, but I do have times in there. So if you want to discuss your retirement plan with somebody who has no incentive to sell you a product, to make any commissions off you, that's not what we do, then I would definitely love to speak with you about your retirement planning. And you go to KIS, like keep it simple, planning.com/apply, and I'll be happy to help you out there. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead and please drop them down below in the comments, and I will stay on to answer them. If you don't have any questions, that's okay. We'll wrap up for today. So I want to say hello to everybody real quick that's logged on. Matilda, hello. How are you doing? I love your profile picture. It's pretty cool. If you guys can't see it, check out Matilda's profile picture in the comments. Brian, hello. Thanks for showing up. George, Tori, Deborah, Leanne, thank you so much for showing up today. Donna, Steve, Jim, as always. Jim, such a great guy, very helpful in the comments here. Shayna, thank you so much for your very nice comment this week saying how much you appreciate the group. It means a lot to me. I know I put a lot of time and effort into making sure this group is the best one available for you anywhere on the internet. That's my goal, and I appreciate that comment. So, and Deborah, hello. Thank you so much there. Pamela, hello. How are you doing today? I'm not seeing any questions in the comments, guys. So what I would like to know from you in the comments is, do you have your will in place? Do you have your estate plan in place? Let's be honest, right? Let's have some accountability this week. Let's get this, at least this one step in place this week, or at least by the end of the month. And if you don't, then I would love for you to put no in the comments, and then remind yourself to hold yourself accountable to go get your will completed. And then you can come back and update that and respond with a yes. So if you do have your estate plan in place, then I'd love for you to share yes and let people know any tips you have about the process you went through with the lawyer. I want you to keep in mind, none of the things today we spoke about are intended to be legal advice. I am not a lawyer. That's not what I do. I'm a financial planner and advisor. But I do not give legal advice, and nothing here should be intended to be legal advice. But I do know, and I have seen what happens when people don't have their estate planning in place. So I wanted to bring up this topic today to get you thinking about it, and so that you can take the next step forward, okay? If that's it, I'm going to wrap up today. I don't see any comments with questions for me. Pat asked about a living trust. Yeah, I think living trusts are a great idea, especially in states like California. And really, really important to have something like that. So that's part of your overall estate plan. So that's trust, right? So trust, there's many different kinds of trust, and the different type of trust depends on your asset level and how you want to set things up. But I think a living trust can be really good. It's not necessary in all states, but in California for sure, it really is. So, but great question, all right? So thank you so much, guys. I want you to have a great weekend. Let's make this week the week that you take that first step forward if you haven't yet and get your estate planning in place. And if you do have your estate planning in place and you haven't visited your documents for a while, if it's been at least a year or two, I recommend you pull those out, go through and see if there's been any updates that you need to make when it comes to your accounts, your account titling, your beneficiary designations, and your wishes, because things do change over time where we want our wealth to go. So let's pull that out this week and do a checkup on that. If you need any assistance, I'm going to put the link down below so that we can chat, and we'll do a 45-minute retirement strategy call with you. And I promise it will be some of the best time you spend planning your retirement, and you will walk away with a step-by-step game plan of what you need to do, or at least a high-level items for you to retire with confidence. That's what I'm here for, okay? And the call is complimentary. No problem at all with that. So go to kisplanning.com/apply. And other than that, folks, I will see you soon, and I'll see you in the group here, and we'll chat soon, okay? Leave your questions down below if you have any, and as always, post your questions for the group members to respond, and we'll do our best to help you out. All right, have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.